Hi, this is Ashley Victoria Robinson coming to you from the Popverse live from San Diego Comic-Con, and I am joined today by James Tynion IV, the king of the Eisners. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, not only have you won several many Eisners by this point, it was handed to you by Neil Gaiman. Tell me about that.
Oh my God, literally, he walked out on stage. It was him and Frank Miller, and all of a sudden, like, I started doing the math in my head, where it's just like, these are the three categories they're about to read. Mm-hmm. If I win this, I'm going to be handed a Best Writer Eisner by Neil Gaiman. And I was just like, okay, that can't happen. That absolutely cannot happen. And then they call my name, and I go up there, and I basically stammer my way through an acceptance speech because I could not process it, and then went back to my table and just tried not to cry because it was literally, it was everything I've ever wanted in my professional life, happening in a single moment. And it's a real highlight of the con.
So you're a reverse manifester. If you say it won't happen, it absolutely will happen.
Oh boy, I guess so.
So I have a question for you about a nice house on the lake. Yeah. Who would you invite to your nice house on the lake?
See, that's a very funny question because Nice House on the Lake is very much based on myself and a bunch of my friends, and I am definitely the villain of the story. Walter is very much me. A bunch of the other characters are hybrids, or two or three of my friends kind of rolled up together. Mm-hmm. And so the people I would invite to my Nice House on the Lake are the people who, in Nice House on the Lake, Walter invited to the Nice House on the Lake.
And Neil Gaiman.
And Neil Gaiman. No. I would just stammer. I'd be too freaked out to invite Neil Gaiman to that. I was like, I don't know. Someone was asking, it's like, oh, you should go try to say hi. And it's like, no. It's like, I want to skip forward to the third time I would be able to meet Neil Gaiman, because the first two times I'm just going to be a weirdo.
Okay, so in 2 years, we'll come back, I'll ask you the same question, and you'll tell me this amazing conversation you had.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were also nominated for Something is Killing the Children and Wind, amidst everything else you've been nominated for. How do you handle the balance of the different tones and the different audiences that you have to point these stories toward?
Honestly, it's one of my favorite things about how I write all of these books. I like the balance. I like being able to stretch different muscles in each series. Mm-hmm. Each book I do is very different from each other book that I do, and it requires different storytelling muscles. It taps into different, things that I feel about the world, and so moving between each of them, is my preferred way to work. And I can't imagine doing it any other way. If I was just working on one or two things, I think I'd go crazy.
You're like, 7 books are nothing.
Kind of. That does not mean that I definitely work on too many things, and I should sleep more and take vacations. All of those things would make my life much better. But right now, I just overworking on a lot of books.
So you work too much, you don't sleep, you don't take vacations. Do you do any kind of self-care to sort of balance out some of the darker and more grim stories that we're getting?
I mean, writing comics is my self-care, and I read them and I watch stuff, and I don't know. I love comics. Comics are my whole life, and the fact that I get to do them means so much to me. And literally, there is no greater joy in the world than being sitting in front of a computer, and all of a sudden a piece of story that I hadn't figured out yet suddenly makes itself clear to me. There is no better rush in the entire world, and that's why I keep working on all these different things. So I'm always chasing that feeling.
Are there any of those aha moments that you could tell us about? Or maybe a panel or a page or a story point that you struggled with and then really broke through?
Oh boy, I mean,
you can spoil, whatever's to come, because we know you're writing ahead.
I'm trying to think. Honestly, so in the Sandman universe, Nightmare Country, that I'm working on right now, I had this moment where I had the superstructure of the whole series in place, and then all of a sudden I realized, as I was writing the third issue, that this character that I'd been building up needed to be working with another character. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't be able to have all of the information that he has unless he was working in tandem with another character. And then I suddenly realized who that other character was going to be. And suddenly the entire superstructure of the entire series presented itself. And I sent my editors this manic long email about like, okay, this is how the entire series works now. And it's really, really exciting, and I'm excited to write all of it.
Nice. Now, because we're here at Comic-Con and because you do have such a diversity of stories, what does a typical James Tynion IV fan looks like who makes their way up to your table with their comic and says, please, sir, will you sign this for me?
Oh, boy. I mean, the thing that I love is that there isn't one type. And, you know, I write everything from really brutal horror stories to heartwarming young adult adventures with like a queer focus. And so it's just my favorite moments are when, you know, the like, you know, burly ex-military guy comes up with a copy of Wind, or when, you know, like a young queer person with hair like 7 different colors like comes to the table with like, you know, a stack of Department of Truth. Those are the moments that I love the most. And it's just the fact that because, you know, I have all of those stories in me, and I think everyone has lots of different, you know, not everyone plays it against type in a bunch of different ways, and I love that I'm able to get that kind of crossover.
So I have to ask, as a theater kid myself, more backstagers?
No plans right now, but I do love that series.
Okay. That's not forever, but just for right now. A lot of people who are watching and a lot of people who are coming and seeing you here at the con want to make their own stories, whether that's independent comics, licensed comics. What's your best advice for creators?
Oh boy. Honestly, what is my best advice? It's to follow your curiosities. It's be indulgent. It's lean into the strange things that you're interested in and learn everything about them, and then move on to the next strange thing that you're interested in and learn everything about it. And it's at the end of all of those rabbit holes, you start making connections between the different rabbit holes, and that is the magic moment that a story like comes to life in your head. And that, you know, it's be curious. That's the, you know, like, honestly, none of my stories would happen without me reading, you know, dozens of like nonfiction books and watching a bunch of old movies and stuff like that. And then it's the strangest combinations that, you know, just like hit a nerve in my brain, and then I see a story and then I have to write it.
That's so beautiful. Okay, lastly, because here in the Popverse we celebrate the best in TV, movies, and comics, what are you geeking out about right now that you're not working on?
Oh boy. Honestly, the Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips Reckless series, I think, are the best comics being made right now. I am constantly gushing over all of them, and it is it's just so good. And I think there are 4 of them out right now, and they're about to release the 5th, or 3 of them out, and they're about to release the 4th. But either way, it's a bunch of really, really good stories, and you should pick them all up and read some of the best comics being made.
All right, James, where can people find you on social media? Where can they support you? And where can they pick up your multi-award-winning works?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I've sort of taken a step back from social media, but you can sort of keep track of everything that I'm up to at Read Tiny Onion on Twitter and at jamestynion4.substack.com. And then on top of that, if you're just interested in picking up some like cool merch about my series, go to shoptinyonion.com. And yeah, otherwise go to your local comic shop and say you want some James Tynion comics, and I bet they'll be able to point you in the right direction.
James Tynion IV, King of the Eisners, thank you so much for joining us at San Diego Comic-Con.
Thanks so much for having me.